Cull and Good Bull for cut number 3. We didn't do one last week, I don't believe. Or if we did one last week, we were playing catch up. I don't think we did one last week. The website now for anybody who's missed, dion-c.me, the Bonfire Gallery is back up, back online. It took 7 weeks to figure out, at least get a rough idea of what happened, where everything was. Spoiler alert, it was all gone. And come up with a plan for moving forward. That plan ended up being a complete rebuild. And, taking that as an opportunity, because everything is always an opportunity. The website now is faster than it has ever been. And in the week that it's been up, I think it's been 1 week now. In the week that it's been back online, I think we're approaching 80,000 image views, which to me is just an expression of how much motivation there is for Bonfire. And that is the height of Good Bull right there. That we have 80,000 images of Bonfire consumed, shared, passed around. And I did not know this. I was able to recover view statistics going back to 2017. Everything else that's been accumulated in now 13 years was gone. But going back to 2017, 14.5 million, now up to 14.6 million views of Bonfire images. So, again, that says that there's a hell of a lot of motivation, and that's outstanding. And I also enjoy that, as people pass these things around and look at these images, they discover, Aggies discover that the Bonfire that students are building now is in so many ways similar to the ones they experienced. When I had an experience, and I talked about it before, years and years ago, shortly after I started taking these pictures, where somebody looked at a photo that I had just taken a few months before and said, hey, yeah, that was, 1990, whatever it was. And there's that guy, and that's what kind of guy he is and everything. And they're telling me about the photo that they're looking at that I took a few months ago. And what they're seeing is from years ago. And I'm telling them, no, actually, it's motivating to hear you say that, but that comes from a few months ago. He said, no, that's not what Bonfire is like now. This was years ago. This is what it was like years ago. And I'm like, nah, that's what it's like now. So all of which to say, that's 14.5 million, now 14.6 million views that are motivating people, reconnecting people, hopefully inspiring people to get involved with Bonfire as students or as former students. Now understanding, hey, these kids are doing the hard job. They're doing it the right way. And, they could use a hell of a lot of support. And maybe depending on, we've got 1,200 images to go through tonight. Depending on how quick we can get through those, we might have a little talk about, been getting a lot of questions about the burn location and sort of logistics for this year. So, if we can get through these photos in a reasonable amount of time, we'll cover that as well. So now, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And it's going to be an inauspicious start. I warn you, I try not to look at these images except for to pick out the first image for the live stream. I try not to look through these images so that I'm seeing them really for the first time when we do these things. However, I did notice, and I couldn't not notice these when we started. So frustrating. Probably the best situated I've been all year for the Yellow Pots Butt Pots call, where the junior reds call for the Yellow Pots and Butt Pots to come down to give them sort of the marching orders for the day, give them the lay of the land. In the past, it had been the case when cut and stack site were closer together. It had happened that it was during the Yellow Pots and Butt Pots call that the crew that had to go to unload was informed that they would be at unload. It's a little bit farther away now, and you don't want people driving more than they should have to drive. Confession, the thing that worries me most about everything, cut, load, stack, all of it, the thing that worries me the most is students in cars on the road. So it's a smart call that they make. The Yellow Pot and, in the case of the core being at unload and Butt Pots that are at unload, you're not going to see them responding to the Yellow Pot Butt Pot call in the morning. But to the disappointment of these photos, I was lined up as good as I'd been. And if there's any good news in these photos, it is that, this is proof that the air conditioner works in the old 89 F-150. So I had already been here for, I think I had already been here for 10 minutes. And I try to get early enough so that I can take the camera out of the truck and just let it acclimate so we don't have this situation. This is a lens that's here. You'll see the difference here. I'm trying to get, and I'm feeling like, yeah, these are all going to be garbage. And then I finally get a chance to get the condensation off the friggin' lens. So a bunch of hot garbage until it was too late. So, oh well. But, best laid plans. If you're into photography, if it's something you want to try, I'm not sitting here professing to be any kind of pro or whatever, but I learned a couple things. And one of the things that's really important is get to where you're going early. Not just to make sure you got everything ready and stuff, but especially in places like here where it's humid and whatever, get your equipment so that you don't have 10 minutes is obviously not soon enough. Give your equipment a chance to acclimate so you don't have the disaster there. Oh, well, forget it, whatever. Walton's getting a head start back to load site. They usually head out a little bit early, usually about the time they call for Yellow Pots and Butt Pots, because Walton knows where they're going to be and they know what their marching orders for the day are going to be. They don't need a conversation in the morning. They're going to be at load and they're going to be loading trucks. And so this will be the first weekend that I actually spent some time there at load to try and get a good view of some work at load. I took a few pictures at load, but didn't really get anything going on the trucks. So I tried to make a point of doing that today. Here's the core, members of the core. This is B2 is out in the front. We've talked about a little bit. We talked a little bit about B2 so far this year. We've seen a lot of them. This was an outfit, as we talked about last week. This was an outfit that turned their fortunes around, and it is directly attributable to their participation in Bonfire. It cannot be a coincidence that outfit has become so strong and had such a high participation rate in Bonfire. There's heart. heading back to their woods carrying their big ass axe box. There's I spoke to somebody in Heart. A little bit of an advance notice here. I spoke to somebody in Heart about being on the podcast. There's an individual, one of the Black Pots in Heart, that is a competitive archer, and even with his competitive archery ambitions and goals and expectations, he took on a leadership role in his crew as a Black Pot. And so we're going to have him on the Perimeter Fires podcast, just to kind of pick his brain. That'll be coming down the road. I told him why I wanted to talk to him, and he started answering my questions. Don't tell me now. I want to hear for the first time on the podcast. So, and Bonfire has had some characters like that in the past, and I'll certainly be talking to them too. Michael Hahn from Walton was a yellow pot. He was a gymnast and a competitive club gymnast, also a champion arm wrestler. And as a senior, he accepted the offer to be a yellow pot for the dorm. So also a guy with championship ambitions and responsibilities, and so that's always fascinated me, the sorts of things that people choose to sacrifice or at least put off for a moment in order to lead Bonfire. So Hart's doing some downswing and cleanup stuff in the morning. I'm just trying to get that axe they're using with their insignia on it, the surgeons. We got a couple ones there that'll work. You'll find insignia on there. Let's be honest, because part of the shenanigans, and I haven't seen these shenanigans in years, but it used to be you'd go see what was unattended and borrow, because you never steal. We don't tolerate that. Maybe you'd borrow something. So if you put your stuff on, put your insignia on your stuff, it's a little bit harder to get away with. Like I said, I haven't seen those kind of shenanigans in a bit. I wonder if that's the, I don't know, maybe that's the COVID hangover and people just getting used to not going into each other's woods or something anymore. But that used to be a little bit of fun. Now this is OC is helping with load in the morning. Walton is the permanent load crew. It's a specialty, and it's just such a great job. It's a great job because it's a miserable job. But they're practicing in unison. When you put the log on the truck, everybody's got to do it at everybody together at the same time. That's critically important. And so they're just doing a little practice, 1, 2. So the load pot is up on the truck, and he's saying 1, 2 on the truck. And when he says on the truck, everybody has to do a push-up on the TR of truck. And it's just sort of a nice little drill. Everybody does it together. and they're bringing in now. These would be basers, and these are kind of small basers, but you know, your first basers of the weekend, or the day. You know, get your bigger basers a little bit later in the day when you're warmed up a little. I mean, not that this is a small log or anything, but as far as basers go, it's not that big. 1-2 on the truck, and they're starting to get it on there. The challenge this year, and we talked about it before, one of the challenges this year with these woods is that, you know, it's different than what people are used to, because for the past 3 years or whatever it's been, 3 years before this, it was all oak, all post oak. And it's post oak for a reason. They call that for a very good reason, because they're shaped like posts. And now the woods that they're in, they've got some white elm in there, which do a fair job of staying straight. But there's also a lot of hackberry, which is what they just put on there, which is this windy, gross, janky tree. And that's when I saw how much hackberry there was out this year. One of my first thoughts was, man, the load is not going to be fun with all those janky, crazy. Because you could do 1-2 on the truck and everybody be together at the same time, and then on one end you've got people who are already having to let go of it, and on the other side people are still holding on because it's all squiggly. Now this, I just want to point this out. Mufasa, he was a new boy, going to be a chief in Walton, and he passed away a couple years ago during the summer, before he got his chance to be a chief. David Mufasa McLeod, and ever since then they've put his name on the load shirts, which is red ass. He's just such a friggin' great kid and such a great personality. And it's nice to see that Walton still remembers him. And more than that, the trailer that they're using, this trailer right here, they give the trailers names, they give the trucks names, everything's got a name. They named the trailer Pop-Tart. And that was sort of his thing. That was his trademark, was Pop-Tarts. So Mufasa's still out there, and that's motivating. So normally when you're carrying a log, it's being called by the chief who's in front of the log, you know, giving you the directions as to where to go and everything. But when you get up to the truck at load, the chief will tell you, when you get up near enough to the truck, the chief will tell you, whoa, truck's got you. And from that point on, it is the load pot on top of the truck that is telling you what to do. And they're going to give you the, you know, back it up, roll forward, all that, saddle in, get you right up next to the truck. Another janky hackberry. For the Walton Chiefs. OC again helping. So that one might not be a hackberry. That one might just be janky. When you throw the log onto the truck, one of the responsibilities of everybody on the truck every log you want to get between the log and the people that brought it to you as quickly as possible. So for your basers, you're stepping over the log as soon as you can. And it's going to be your leg that keeps it from going that way. But still, everybody keeps their hands out, right? You keep your hands out until the truck yells, break it. Break it in Wildcat. And it's sort of, it does have a practical purpose. Howdy, Iceman. It does have a practical purpose in, a community of hands out towards the log is going to, be able to handle that log bouncing back. But I always found it's also got more than that. Very, very rarely do those hands out end up actually, having to do something. When you need to stop a log from bouncing back, you darn well better have your hands out. But really I find that it's doing very effectively is reinforcing in people's minds that you've got to pay attention and be completely cognizant of the load situation. Until somebody tells you that your job for the moment is done. So now they're putting in the truck sticks. I was trying to get one where they were both. I think this might be it. No, I think that one's better. I was trying to get them both coming down at the same time. This was something he was giving us a little school in windmilling, keeping your hands as close together as possible. The best I ever saw windmill, and he was freakishly good at it. I mean, freakishly good. You wouldn't believe it. Jorge Barrera could windmill like a son of a gun. It was nuts the way he'd just have that. It's like it wouldn't even slow down. It would hit the truck stick and then just keep going. Like he never broke rhythm. It was bonkers. So now they're doing the 1-2 on the truck drill again, because what we saw there when they're putting the pounding in the truck sticks, right? That means that they're done with the basers. The deck is full of basers. You're not going to be able to roll or slam dunk any more basers onto the bed of the truck. So now you're tossing. You're going to be tossing over the truck sticks. And so once again, they do a little 1-2 on the truck drill. Make sure everybody is dialed in. Then they're starting to bring in the tossers. And I feel like I got some pretty decent ones at tossers. I told him, I think I mentioned this last time. I told him, and this was last year's load pot. I told him at the beginning that, so last year I had surgery just before the start of the season. And it was I was a little sore. I did not trust doing anything uh, outside of walking around and taking pictures last season. And the season before, it just never worked out that I had the chance. So it's been 3 years since I've been on the back of the truck, and I miss it. I miss it so much. And so I did express that if the opportunity presented itself, I would enjoy being on the truck if they trusted me to not be a liability. And I don't know. Early results are, I think, for the first time in 3 years, I'm going to get on the truck again. And I'm telling you, you have not lived until somebody has thrown a tree at your face. It's just such a cool feeling. It's so great. So yeah, obviously we're gonna go with this one. I like that one. Um, yeah, it's a rush. Now here, that was a tosser, right? I mean a proper tosser. They're tossing that. This, you see the hands up over the top here. They're doing a slam dunk. So you've got, you know, on the truck toss, rainbow toss, laser, whatever these different things to describe how it is that they need you to put the log on. But this is a slam dunk. So you're just going over the top of the truck sticks. Incidentally, I would say that I don't consider this a social media platform. Just that's just my 2 cents. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just I'm just saying. Um yeah, so more of this. I've always been kind of drawn to the hands. Here's another angle of them. I mean, you're putting your hands out. You're not protecting yourself. You're not going to protect yourself from a tree. That's not happening. You know, everybody, dozens of people down on the ground, all holding their hands out. Well, that's going to do something. When you're on the truck, your hands can redirect. You're going to catch it and you're going to push that log down to where it needs to go. But really, the point of your hands is a target. You're putting your hands out there because that's where you want people to put the log. You want people to throw the tree into your hands, which is pretty modi. You're not doing yourself any favors. Anyway, love. So now we're back. I think was this the core woods that I went back into? This might have been. It's just a weird little approach to a small tree there. Um, Something to be mindful of, and as miserable as it is, cutting down a tree is it's not easy. It sort of hurts a little bit, wears you out, all that. But I'd take that all day, every day over clearing brush. But that's just something you got to do. Haul and brush. So to get to any one tree, and I think that's been something else that people have been experiencing for the first time. I mean, nobody. Yeah, maybe the fifth year seniors know what it's like to be on a piece of land that's brand new and fresh. Now, maybe the seniors do. The seniors were there the first year that they were on the land that they were on for 3 straight years up until this year. So the seniors were fish on a new piece of land. But, since then, nobody's really had the experience of being on a brand new piece of land. And so that's just something that's, everybody's getting to experience the joy of again, is spending 30 minutes clearing brush to get to one tree. And it's not enough to clear it. You got to get it out of the way, because when that tree comes down, you got to carry that tree. You're not carrying it through the brush. You're carrying it to the tractor path or whatever. So that's got to be clear. So you're moving the brush to brush piles distributed throughout the woods. Now, my understanding is this year there's a bit of an advantage when you're laying out these brush piles. You're having to lay them out with consideration towards you're going to be coming back the following spring and summer to burn those brush piles. And so you can't just throw brush piles wherever you want. You have to keep in mind that those brush piles are going to be something that you're going to be burning later. And so you want to kind of lay them out. This is how much thought goes into everything. It looks mindless that, they're just swinging axes and whatnot. Well, no, they're swinging axes on a tree that they very carefully planned how they were going to clear brush to get to it so that they could get out that tree out on everybody's shoulders to the tractor path. So they thought that through. But then when they're done with the brush, they don't just toss it. They take it to places where it makes sense to put brush piles, thinking, 6, 7, 8, 9 months down the road when they're going to be burning those brush piles. And let's make sure we've got everything so that when all this stuff is cleared, let's imagine where we're going to be next year and, next spring and summer. And how do we lay out these brush piles so that when it's time to burn them, we can do that safely and have our eyes on everything that's going on? It's crazy. There's not a single thing that doesn't entail a high degree of forethought. And then to top that off, analysis paralysis is a thing. So not only do you have to think all this stuff through, but you've got to be cognizant of your thought processes and make sure that you're not putting yourself in a position where you're not making decisions because you're too busy thinking about them. So you've got these two conflicting demands. Think about every single thing, but also you better be prepared to get your thinking done pretty quick and then do something. So we're back at loading for the second half of the day. The Corps came to help. Some of the Corps came to help. So a slice of the Corps came to load, and then the rest of the Corps was in their woods. But that's red ass when you're in the woods, you're in the shade, you're cutting down a tree when it's time to cut down a tree, and you're in control of your pace, and to make the decision to come to load, because if they don't come into the woods and say everybody's got to go to load, they just say, hey, we need some people at load. And then you choose. That's red ass. Could have been in the shade. Could have been cutting down trees. Could have been sitting down in between trees and having a nice cold water and maybe some snacks. So I passed FHK kind of quickly and caught them moving along. On my way to Kruger, again, trying to be cognizant of how much time I'm spending where and who I spent time with the week before and all that. So I'm getting to Kruger, and I spent a good bit of time with Kruger. I not like they care. Nobody cares. Hollywood's stupid. Hollywood's still a bad word, at Bonfire, which is nice. But I did. The ratio of photos that are going to be kept out of all the photos that were shot with Kruger is going to be pretty low. But the light was cool, and they were swinging on a tree that was cool looking, and so I did. This is almost becoming cliche for me. I get it, I know, but the glasses thing. He kind of moved a lot while he swung. So it was hard to get a fix on where he was going to be, kind of predict the focus to get where he was going to be. And I think this one works. See that? Pretty happy with that. That's pretty cool. And I didn't accidentally or whatever get myself in the frame, which is kind of hard to do with these. I think there was a better one in these. That one's pretty cool. So yeah, it takes a lot of shots in for this sort of thing to get one that's. That one's pretty close. I thought I got one of him actually making contact with the tree. I think there's something like 150 photos. I think obviously I've jumped over a bunch here, but I think I ended up with one or two from this. But yeah, this is just something. This is something I just can't help myself. I don't care if it's becoming cliche or whatever, but I like this sort of thing. So a lot of times, if you see a photo and it just doesn't exactly make sense why I took it, especially if somebody was wearing sunglasses, there's a pretty fair chance that just like look at the photos on desktop, not just the phone. Go on desktop, full screen. I'm usually trying to sneak something in there. Maybe I think this is the one. Yeah. Not as clear, but you see the chips. Anyway, all right. That was fun. The chief calling, encouraging, talking trash, what have you. One of the Browns jumped in on it. So like I said, there's cool light back here. Fun hanging out back here. One of the dead Browns. And then I came around to the other side where the light was hitting it to see if I could slow things down enough and get tight enough to get something cool. And I'm not gonna bore you with all of these, but there's a few hundred. these, just trying to get that just the right thing. I think this tree took maybe all of 10 minutes, maybe 12 minutes to get this tree down. And as you can see, it's no hackberry. This is a solid tree. And so I'm not as okay. For the record, I am not as close to this as it looks like I am. Because it looks like I'm really, really close, but I'm well away behind the tree. Well, I mean, off to the side, but a little bit behind. I got lucky. I got really lucky and got this. I don't know if any of the current students know. There was a professor at A&M, Kerry Litzenberg, and he was my professor at one point, and Litz is what everybody called him. And man, he was fun. He was a great professor. I really enjoyed his class. And I was in his class for my final pass to finally graduate A&M. And of course, you know, I was unabashedly late, and that was fine. You know, I did the bonfire thing and what have you, and then had to decompress for a couple years, started a business, and that was fun and doing all right. But I needed to get back and graduate. And so when I went back, I finished as ag leadership. And I'll tell you, if I'd have found ag leadership when I was a fish, I'd have been done in 4 years because I loved it. It's not that it's saying nothing of the challenge of the coursework. It was as hard as you wanted it to be. And I loved ag leadership. That was such a great program. But Litz was one of my professors in that last, the last year and a half or whatever it was that I had to finish. And anyway, he was great. And last March, I think, Litz passed away. And that was a bummer. He was such an outsized personality, and just, he was so great. And in May or July, the dates are all weird, but there was an auction, and I keep my eyes out for auctions for photography equipment, because I'm taking it out into environments where I know I'm going to beat the hell out of it, and one day I'm going to break something, or it's going to get so full of crud that it's just not recoverable. Whatever. This is not a friendly place for photography equipment. So I'm always looking on auction sites for equipment, good stuff, but it's not going to completely devastate me if something happens to it, so that I can get in the places that I need to get into to take the photos, And so I win this auction for 3 lenses, and for just an insane, I got so lucky. But it also contained a bunch of other stuff. There was a slide projector, and my dad's he was a photographer since he was 6 years old or something. He got his first camera, and I think he sold his first photo when he was 9 or something. So Dad is a lifelong photographer, and he always had slide projectors. He had a photography studio in the house, and so among the photography toys that he had to, for a young boy to play with, he had slide projectors. And so I get this slide projector at the auction. And before I get to the lenses, because those are going to be the cherry on top, I'm looking through everything else first. I start playing with this slide projector just because it reminds me of the slide projectors that I had in the house as a kid, my dad's stuff. And so I'm looking through the manual of the slide projector, and it says Litz on it. And I'm thinking, that's crazy. That was one of my old professor's names. That's nuts. And then it also had a sales receipt for the slide projector or some other piece of equipment that was in the batch. And it said K. Litzenberg. I went, no way. And there was a program for a church event. And so I just did a little bit of Googling and searching and stuff and just nailed it all down. This was Dr. Litzenberg's stuff. His, slide projector, his lenses, everything. And these lenses, I'm telling, this is what I'm shooting this with, where it looks like I'm right up on it, but I'm not. I'm at a safe distance, and I'm at a distance, most importantly, where I'm not distracting the people who are doing the work, but I'm still able to get right up on this. And it's because I've got great glass. These are some really cool lenses that belong to a great Aggie professor. And and so when I found out it was Dr. Litzenberg and his stuff, I just felt moved to I went different, Facebook or whatever, and I found his daughters, and I just sent him a private message and just said, hey, I'm sorry for your loss. I love Dr. Litz. And I want you to know I got his lenses, and I'm going to do the best I can to use these lenses to help motivate Aggies. And I just want you to know that, that's what this stuff is going to be well loved, and it's going to be well used. And it turns out that one of his daughters works with my wife. So, they ended up connecting those dots. So anyway, as a little tangent, as we're looking through some piles of really up close stuff, but that's how I'm able to take these photos specifically. I'm using one of Litz's lenses, and I love those lenses, and I love where they came from. Litz was awesome. He was a champ. So glad that his stuff is out here. So they got the tree down. I think, was this the one that I used? I think this is the one that I used for the preview. And between here and here, I missed the whoop, which drives me nuts. Now, on the way back up to the front, I did stop back with FHK and Leggett again. I believe this coming weekend, the kids are going to be cutting with Leggett again. Between the boy was actually supposed to come out this day, and they were asking where he was. But he was sick, so he didn't get to come out. But I think the whole posse is coming out. It's coming up weekend. Cut with Leggett. If they had their way, they'd have come out every weekend. But can't come out for first cut. Everybody's figuring things out. I think second cut's a little bit early. Third cut was a sloppy mess. That one got pushed back. So cut 3 was last weekend. And he's still, every weekend, I think this is going to be the weekend that he stays home. That is just not the case. I didn't even notice it last week when I was reviewing the photos last week. I did not, I had no idea. There was one of the photos that I ended up publishing from last week, 2 weeks, whenever the last one was. One of the photos from Second Cut, it was a photo of a BQ swinging on a tree, and I didn't notice when I took the photo, and I didn't notice when I reviewed the photos, and I didn't notice when I developed the photo and sent it. I'd met him before. I'd met him one time, but when I met him, he wasn't wearing a pot, and I didn't meet him at Bonfire, so I just didn't connect the dots, and so I put the photo up, and it was a great photo on its own merits. It was a outstanding photo. I mean, not the photo. What he was doing was outstanding. You get my point. So, anyway, he's just swinging his ass off on a tree, and I get a text message from a buddy, a college buddy, and the text message is just a URL to that photo. Here's the Browns getting a little shade near load site where there are no trees, and this is as good as it gets. Basically hotel living. But the entire text is just a link to that photo. And then I saw who sent it to me, and before he could follow up with why he had sent me a link to that specific photo, I realized that that was my college buddy's son. Obviously, I screwed up. It's all on me. But anyway, that was my college buddy's son that was swinging on a tree, building Bonfire as a college kid. So that was a moment of mortality to deal with to start this week off. That was a lot to swallow. Buddy from the dorm in college, and his son's out swinging on a tree building Bonfire today. Yes, I'm still psychologically wrestling with that. It's Modi. It's Modi as hell. I'm so glad that he's doing it. Obviously, but yeah, man, I tell you. So this is something that we didn't get earlier in the morning at load, but when you put the truck sticks in, after you get them pounded in down as far down as you need them cut, you have the shortest person come up, and then they'll go up and stand next to each one of the truck sticks and hold their arm up over their head, and you mark the truck stick at their elbow, and then the brown pot assigned to load will come out with its chainsaw and cut off all of the truck sticks at the height of the elbow of the shortest person working at load at that moment. Just to make sure you have the right clearance. And that, yeah, they did a little bit more. Got a little bit more on the truck, but this is going to be about the end of the day. The end of the day for me, at least. Get home. Like I said, the boy was sick and he was tapping out of some stuff that my wife and his sisters were doing. He was about at the end of his rope in town. So this is, I don't know, maybe 2:00, something like that. So it was about time for me to cut out a little bit earlier than I intended to today, but get back and take care of that fella. But that's it. That's so that is cut 3, and those will be developed tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow, maybe a little bit Saturday after cut. No, so those should be up pretty soon. And then this weekend is, I believe it's a double this weekend. It's an away game, so I believe it's a double. And I'll try to make it out for both days, at least a little bit for both days for the first double. Old Man Load. That's where the old Walton guys come back and load trucks. That'll be this weekend. And then the weekend after that, I believe the weekend after that is Family Cut. I believe. So that's that for this. And we did get through it pretty quick, just at an hour. So I'll just say that I'm getting a lot of questions from people. Where is Burn this year? When is Burn this year and everything? It is, for a while now, Bonfire's been back on the quote traditional schedule. So if it's a home game, if the last game of the season, of the regular season, is a home game, then you burn Bonfire the night before the game because it's a home game and everybody's in town. So the games now are on Saturdays. So then you would burn on Friday. But it's an away game. So the away game, again, it'll be on a Saturday. Traditionally, you do it 2 days before the game. But that's when you're playing the game on Thursday. Well, you're not going to have Bonfire on Thanksgiving. And the students are smart. They decided years ago when we went back to this mostly traditional schedule, you don't want to make people travel on Wednesday, on a Thanksgiving Eve. So this year will be on Tuesday. And that is the rules for every year, forever now, until the schedule changes. If the game is a home game, burn is on Friday. If the game is an away game, burn is on Tuesday before. So it will be Tuesday, November 21st. Will be Burn. And it will be on the same site that it was last year. Keeping in mind that technically it burned this year. January 21st is when it burned. Which does also bring to mind the other thing that everybody needs to be prepared for. The land that Bonfire was on for 13 years or whatever it was until it had to move last year. That land had been driven on by cars, machines, had been stomped all over by people for 13 years. The places that you needed it most had been packed down pretty good. The land that Bonfire is burning on this year, same as last year, it's a working pasture, same as the other place was, but this place hasn't had all the traffic. So just be prepared to show up early, to carpool, to stay tuned as you get closer to burn with more input, advice, and updates on what the situation is going to be like. It's a pasture. It could get sloppy. So just be prepared for that. And be prepared for guidance from Bonfire on how to make it as seamless as possible. And as former students, just be prepared. We're getting close to a time where we as former students are going to be in a position to make a really incredible impact on Bonfire. We've got, I say a group of former students. We've got some really promising ideas, leads, connections, what have you, to get a piece of land for these students to use. All right, it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. But we approach this with the same patience that the students have shown us and the same resolve that the students have shown us. Just put your head down and show up every single day and just keep your head down and keep working hard, and you're going to come out the other side. We're going to take a lesson from them, and we're going to approach this deliberately and patiently in the right way without any rush, because these Aggies are going to keep building Bonfire. They're going to get it done. And we're going to find them a nice piece and take care of it, engineer it, make it so we can put as many cars on there as possible, and then give the students a home that they can build Bonfire and they can run it and they can lead it and they can do it in the ways that they have shown us that they know how to do it better than anybody else. That's possible. And I think it is possible, and I believe the foreseeable future, just not tomorrow. And so as former students, if you're motivated by Bonfire, if you're motivated by what you're seeing or what you have seen yourself in person in the past, whatever, just be prepared. We're getting close to a time where we as former students can make a tremendous and permanent impact on the future of Bonfire in the right way. So pass that back. Start getting your buddies motivated. Start getting your class motivated, and let's be prepared for an eventuality in the near future that we're going to have a plan, and we're going to start executing towards that plan. And then as we execute towards that, getting Bonfire a home that they can call a home forever. Let's also be prepared to be as patient and resolved and resilient as these students are. And together, former students, current students, we're going to make something extraordinary happen. I'm convinced of it. So, excuse me. So that's it. Yeah. That is Cull and Good Bull for cut 3 of Bonfire 2023. Got some big weekends coming up. Got doubles coming up. Got family cut coming up. And another outstanding season. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for staying motivated. Pass it back. And let's build the hell out of Bonfire. Giga Maggies.